to the EMS Wizard podcast. I'm
Wait,
John.
whoa, wait a minute. No. This is not how this goes. I'm supposed to do the introduction,
What? What?
and
What?
then whoever wants to come in behind me, you guys interrupt me all the time.
What? What? Whoa, whoa, whoa.
No. This is not how
Very
this works. This is
accusational
not how
there,
this
Mark.
works.
Not very gentlemanlike
This
of
is
it
my
from this.
A
thing.
lot of
This is my
hostility.
jam.
Oh, well, I mean, listen, you want something done right, you got to get in there and do it yourself
No,
always,
you
sir.
weren't doing it right though. You weren't
Oh,
doing it
that was
right.
cold.
We're doing it right.
Well, look, man, I was just excited because we was talking about academies in this episode. I'm all about the academies. Clearly, you don't want to hear it
It's a
from
good
me.
topic.
It is a good topic. Clearly, you don't want to hear it from me. So, how about we just tell Terry knows a little bit about academies.
Yeah, Terry.
That's right.
Why don't you talk about it?
Best friend, John C. Wilson. Yeah, I would say that.
Are y'all best friends now?
He's my best friend, but I'm his second best friend.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I just want to make sure we clarify that. I didn't want to make sure nothing had changed since, the last episode we did.
No. Keith is still the official deadbeat best friends. When we talk about academies, I think a couple things come to mind is number one, we think sometimes that change in EMS is just this thing like that, like somebody cutting off the light or turning on the light, or all of a sudden these changes happen. And this is like navigating a tanker. This is like navigating a giant ship, and making the changes with that academy mindset is something that takes a while. But even to back up to say, what is that academy mindset? I would dare say almost every sheriff's department in the state of North Carolina, that when that sheriff needs deputies, they're paying those deputies. They're sponsoring a citizen to go to basic law enforcement training class. A lot of agencies are doing the same thing. If we're out in Raleigh, where John is, if I'm going to go to work for Raleigh Fire Department, if I'm going to go to work for Greensboro Fire Department or Charlotte Fire Department, those city fire departments are going to say, okay, we're paying you to go to a class Monday through Friday, however it looks, and that's your job, is getting those certifications, those credentials, getting that job training. And in the state of North Carolina, that's something that's been happening. And out at the beach, that's something we're in the process of pulling the trigger on. And again, relationships for me are one of those big things, because there have been some people that I've called across the state to say, hey, what are some best practices, or what are some things that you could avoid? And then where I would say that relationship as an agency, having that good relationship with our community college partner. Walter, you want to talk a little bit?
Well, how did this even get here? How do we even get here? Before Walter gets into that, catch me up, set the table for me. How did we even get to this point that we're even looking at academies? Aren't people supposed to go to their local community college, take a class, get qualified, then head on out and then get a job? Isn't that the way of the world? That's what's supposed to happen. What changed? Are we not seeing that now?
I think the way we've been doing it's not been working. Walter, go ahead.
I'm a give you guys a question. So, can you hire yourself out of this staffing shortage that we're in?
No.
Wait a minute. Aren't there like 5,000 people in Continuum that's credentialed?
I think you that. Now that is an interesting.
We don't have time for that. We don't have time for that in this episode.
Before Walter says that, is that there is some question of how many people are credentialed and not affiliated, but nobody knows the number of job openings either. So you have to know both sides of the equation if you're going to solve for X. Walter, sorry.
But I think there potentially is a good number of people in Continuum that are credentialed as paramedics. They're just not working in the EMS system. And this came up just the other day. What is the average time currently a paramedic stays in the EMS workforce?
No, 2 or 3 years. What is?
Well,
4 years.
So the national average is about 4.6 is what the national average currently was the last time I looked. So, so it's just like less than 5 years. So
Really?
so we train somebody to be a paramedic, and they, get out of that industry within 5 years. Let's say that within 5 years they get out of the industry. We as the community college, and then we as the community college system, I'm not talking about my just community college, our community college system, there's no way we can produce the paramedics that you need at an ongoing basis with a roughly, if we do it at a community college way, 9 to 12 months at the minimum is what it's going to be. And 9 months is really pushing it. So, and how many people are joining our paramedic programs right this minute to be able to get you those numbers? But I propose the question back to you again. Can you hire yourself out of this predicament at this point in time? We've got to think outside the box to be able to do that, Terry.
To touch on, I am a numbers person with some of this stuff, and one of the numbers that I heard recently, it came out to, I think, 5.6 paramedics, newly minted paramedics, whether you're testing, whether you're moving into the state of North Carolina, that it was 5.6 paramedics per county in the state. So roughly 560 new paramedics a year. And so that's whether you're Wake County, whether you're Gaston County, whether you're Swain County. So that number, I would agree. I don't think it's sustainable.
So are you saying we got here out of what I'm asking is, what do you think brought us here? Is there a disinterest in people wanting to be in EMS, or did we forget how to market ourselves, or is it due to the pandemic?
I think all the good things that we've been doing for years, the expanded scope of a North Carolina paramedic, you have paramedics that are working in non-traditional settings now. And hey, I could go work on the ambulance, or I could go work in that doctor's office that Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and I'm home on weekends. And little Johnny, I'm able to coach his little league team. I'm able to be the parent that maybe I couldn't be when I was younger. So I think those are some of the things and challenges. I think another thing is being a paramedic. So many other things, whether it's medical examiner, years ago that wasn't to be a medical examiner, you had to be a physician. And now, I say a couple of years ago, Keith could tell us better how long ago that they started accepting paramedics. But there are other things that I think paramedic is more of a stepping stone than it used to be. I think years ago, I hate to use the term dead end, but I think paramedic was kind of a stop and not a continue on.
So in academy world, are you thinking, is this an attempt to fix staffing, or is this an attempt to build interest? I mean, when we've set the table of where we're at with this, and we say the solution may be in academies, if that's the case, Mark, why would that be a solution?
I think the academies is really going to be dependent upon the target group, the people you're trying to target in your communities, right? So in a very rural EMS system, getting out to your high school programs, getting out to your local community college programs, even, and recruiting those that's in EMT school to talk about your paramedic program, talk about what it's like to be a paramedic. I read not too terribly long ago that the average cost to replace an EMT in an EMS agency is almost $7,000 just to replace an EMT. Whenever you have an EMT leave, that's $7,000 that you can bet on right then just to replace that one EMT. Right. And I don't know that we have, that kind of money just laying around ready to replace an EMT at any given point in time. So, I think it's really about getting out to your communities, expressing that need, because that time of, the generations coming up and, volunteerism and kind of passing down some of that experience, some of that history, I think that time has kind of come and gone. We're going to have to look into really inspiring and influencing our generations that's coming up right now to really, show them what EMS is and give them the opportunity to really evaluate, is this something that I want to do? Because everybody that's coming out of high school, coming through a career program, is EMS one of the options that's on the check sheet coming out of high school?
But I think that's the toughie with this, is when I talk with people in agencies who are spending a lot of time and effort. It was when we had Antoine on a couple episodes ago, so many good things that we talked about, and there were so many things that we didn't have an opportunity to talk with him about. And I know that Edgecombe Emergency Services is doing some stuff, getting into their schools to raise that awareness. But I don't know if it's not the big sexy. I don't know what it is, but there's not that draw. And I don't know. We talk about this time and time again. Was it that rescue squad mentality where I'm volunteering, I'm giving back, where people felt like they were helping in their community, and that was that way to latch people and grab a hold of them. To that's not there anymore.
Yeah. So I think that workforce is an issue throughout every occupation at this point in time. Doesn't matter whether you work in a restaurant, whether you work in retail, whether you work in EMS, whether you work in healthcare, whether you're a physician, where. And, I think a lot of that came from the COVID. What changed with that point of time with COVID, I don't know. But I think the workforce has struggled since then, and trying to get, and so use the sheriff's department. You brought the sheriff's department, is a good idea. They have for years sponsored people to go to BLET, to be able to hire them, pay them, give them vehicles, go to BLET. 16-week class would get you back on the street. Then they got 12 weeks of training to be able to go through. But, I think they're even struggle at this point in time. So I think you have to figure out some way to be able to bring in the staffing and bring in the people that you need. And, and I'm going to use Dare County as an example. You have another hurdle that you have to try to get through as well, which is housing. So, you're trying to bring people in who pay less for cost of living to coming to the beach to a very high cost of living, and trying to keep the people that you have in your community, which are going to stay there, and figure out how to get them trained, to give them a better job, to give them a better lifestyle, to be able to live in the county that they grew up in or they currently live in, to be able to stay there. And, it's unfortunately, the counties are not used to academy style trainings like they are with the sheriff's office, and that's going to be another education piece that EMS agencies are going to have to do to be able to help fulfill the needs of the agency they have. Because if you can look at any agency, and they're short people and need help,
and so they're building these partnerships, and I think that's how we got where we are. Then what we're talking about now in academies is you're seeing the ones that are trying to stay ahead of the game, the agencies, saying, hey, this might be really expensive to do. Let's use our community college. And they're starting to partner up. And that, to me, I think that's a very viable solution. It certainly beats the alternative. If we know the community college isn't necessarily, like you talked about, Walter, not going to be able to produce enough product out there to, we talk about in our officer program, the hireable versus employable. If the community college is going to produce a product that is only hireable, but the counties or the agencies, I shouldn't say counties, the agencies that are hiring folks in, they're going to determine employable. When you marry those two together, it just seems like a natural fit for this academy style, specifically paramedics, but they've even broken it all the way down to hiring them at a level to where they teach them EMT and coming through. So not just paramedic, but actually bringing them in and creating an avenue to do that. So I know you guys have experience in working through those partnerships together. And we are aware that they just, not everybody plays in the sandbox very nice. What are some things, Terry, we'll start with you, that you think was beneficial or that was needed at the table to say that my agency recognized this, and why did you select the community college as a partner versus just doing it yourself?
I think one of the big things to make it successful is communication. And this, Walter, this first meeting when we started discussing this was 18 months ago, 12 months ago. This was at least 18 months ago that we began talking about this. And as those vacancy numbers kept creeping up, it began to be this, what can the community college do for you? And I always joke about that, that your predecessor, John, would sometimes say, what can the community college do for you? And would smile and flash his gold tooth. And when we would ask for things, there wouldn't be much that person would be willing to bear for us. And so I think that relationship, that when you were program director, when we had a question, when we had an issue, we could reach out and say, hey, what can we do? And that relationship, I think, has continued with Walter. Why the community college, with all of the requirements that are now on a paramedic class, it's something that as a smaller agency at the beach, we're not looking to undergo that. Whereas if you're a large agency, yeah, maybe you do if you're a Guilford or a Wake, but I don't know. I can't speak for those people for why they ended up the way that they did with the agency becoming the agency becoming that delivery agent. But I would just frankly say that we had a good relationship with our community college. And so we said, hey, community college, we need to do this.
Walter, was that born overnight, like the relationship between the agency? I know it's easy to serve, inside of an environment where you have stuff already established, but this is kind of stepping out. I'm intrigued to know how you got to that on your side, from at least the college side.
Well, some people think it's hard to believe the college does have to operate as a business. We're September, and we still have not, we're September going on October and still haven't received a budget yet. Hopefully it'll be passed soon. But we have to think about things on a business aspect, just like the EMS agencies have to think of things on a business aspect. And we have such a large geographic area that we can't have, and I'll use Dare County, can't come to Elizabeth City every class to be able to do labs because they're having to drive an hour or 2 hours to be able to get there. So we try to work with the agencies and offer those lab locations. So, it's really not a lot of difference to be able to offer that class in Dare County. It's just the rechanging of some of the resources and allocation of resources that we have, just like your EMS agency has to do. We just have to do that in education in. But, it takes time to be able to have those conversations, get the interested parties, get a class structure developed to be able to meet what the agency wants, and then to be able to figure out how we can move forward. And I'll tell you, it's been 12 or 18 months. And when we pulled the trigger, it went in less than 30 days. We're going to be starting a paramedic course. And it was really that quick. We had conversations, we talked, how can we do things? One of the things that the agency came, so the agency came to me and talked to me. I gave them some guidelines that we have to follow and told them, here's some options that we can do. But the agency came back and said, what can we do to help the college to be able to make this work for us? So, it wasn't just the agency saying, this is what we need, this has got to be how it is, or me as a college going back and saying, this is how it's going to be and it's got to be done this way. We were able to meet in the middle and pull in the middle and bit of mesh that to actually make it work for the agency. And we're learning every day. So there has been some bumps in the road, and we're learning every day on things from getting students into a class, how we're going to get student schedules completed, how are we going to make the schedule work that we at the college, have to go by, how we're going to get students in clinical, how we're going to get students in field. So, it's a lot of moving parts that, sometimes a student may not even realize, and sometimes the agencies don't even realize how cumbersome that can be, and trying to work through those processes to be able to get it done.
It is a lot more cumbersome is one of the things, to interrupt Walter, but what I would say is that partnership, having
Correct.
to work together and to say, well, hey, I need you to do this, but what can I do to make that happen? And having that conversation. And I think sometimes people get that pride and they don't let that wall come down, to be able to have that conversation, to say, what can I do? What can I bring? Hey, I don't understand. So
Mark, I think you're going to add something somewhere.
Oh, yeah. So, looking at, how community colleges and EMS agencies have worked together, we've been really blessed with our EMS agency, even with the amount of turnover that we've had in our, the program coordinator's position over the past 6 years of my tenure as the training officer. We've been blessed with 3 really good training coordinators at the college. And, we've just really had that, seamless workflow. We can constantly communicated with each other. We still, to this day. And I think that's one of the most important aspects of an agency that we need to maintain with our community college partners, is being able to communicate with each other, through whatever our needs are. I remember, I was communicating with our community college coordinator at the time back sometime last year. And, we knew this whole accreditation requirement was coming up, and we needed, like everybody else, we needed paramedics. We had this huge need for paramedics, and they were able to put together this paramedic program that was going to finish before this deadline while they were working on accreditation and getting everything else lined up. And they were able to create 7 credentialed paramedics for us from our EMTs in-house. They were able to credential 7 paramedics for us in 11 months, I think, is actually what it turned out to be, is about 11 months time frame. So, for any EMS agency in the state, do you need 7 paramedics right now? Absolutely. But that come from the relationship that we had. And I think that really stemmed from the communication that we had. And I can also say that probably comes from some of the grace that we would extend to, understanding that our program coordinators, we've had 3 different ones in the past 6 years. Whenever someone comes in as a program coordinator, John and Walter, y'all can probably attest to this more so than anybody. Whenever you come into that position, you don't have an instruction book. You don't have an instruction manual. You really don't have anything to kind of guide you on what to do and how to do and how to accomplish all these things, especially whenever it comes to additional accreditation on top of everything. And, so as a training officer, having needs from an agency perspective, being able to extend some grace and understanding the constraints that a coordinator has from a community college perspective as well, kind of helps us work together a little bit better. I feel like, that really kind of helps us, kind of see eye to eye a little bit better,
Yeah, I think the academy stuff that's coming through, I mean, there's 2 things here. Number one is the fact that you've had that many program coordinators actually, is more common than you would think. You think about someone that is out there running around in the backyard, swinging a baseball bat or playing with Barbie dolls. Something inspired them at some point in time. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be an EMS. And then they go there. What kind of person is sitting around twiddling their thumbs saying, I can't wait to be a program director when I grow up? It's just, so you don't really have an easy sell for that. I always tell people, sell me on EMS. Well, selling you on being a program director or a program coordinator is also a difficult thing to do. But when I think about who might be listening to us out there, what I'd like to appeal to is that the fact that you now have these EMS Academy things coming out there, you are more important than you've ever been before, because you're gonna see these people earlier. It's not gonna be 4 months, an EMT credential, a hiring process, an orientation, and then they're mixing with the people, or a year and a half and then they're mixing with the people. These guys are going to go through these classes and become credentialed in 6 weeks for EMT. And I don't know how long for you guys, for y'all's academy for paramedic. How long?
So
7 months.
32 weeks for paramedics. So they have to be an AEMT when they come in right this minute. But, we've even talked about, do we even back up and do something different with that to be able to get, the next level, which is AEMT, how do we get those involved as well? And, it's going to be challenging, but to be able to keep the pipeline going, like you said, you're going to see him earlier. And, with that and with Mark, Mark said they had 7 students and got paramedics. We have currently 9 students in a class. Well, there was 9. They dropped to 8 now. I'm taking 8 paramedics that 6 counties are fighting for. Those paramedics are already working in those systems already. So it's not like they're gaining another employee from that. They're just having an employee move up to that. And I think that was, some of the things that we saw and dealing, with the county commissioners going, we need these paramedics. We need these paramedics. Now, like John said, more than ever, academies need that because they've got to be able to start those individuals going in to be able to help your agency and not help some other agency.
Right. And
just being selfish.
You've got to look at it differently. We can't.
Correct.
But it's the definition of insanity to keep trying the same thing over and over again and saying, why do we have these paramedic vacancies? John?
Yeah. And that's what I was saying is like, now we need these people. So let's look at this from that 40,000 foot view. And that is, here I am working in EMS, and my shelf life, we're saying, is on average 5 years. So I'm in EMS now. I'm post paramedic. Yeah.
A paramedic shelf life. John Wilson's shelf life is much
different story.
Much shorter. Yeah. Let's paramedic shelf life, 5 years. 26 1-year pins.
I'm still around.
26 1-year pins.
Still around. That just means there's probably 24 more counties I need to get to.
We're talking about program director and 3 program directors in 6 years. How many colleges you been program director of?
Don't ask.
That actually isn't a very high number. As far as program director goes.
He doesn't know.
Oh, okay.
He lost count.
Working for the community college and being a program director, 2 things, but keeping your eye on the ball to keep up with our to listen from that 40,000 foot view. If you come in and my shelf life is 5 years and I'm sitting there, then you're bringing in folks to me younger or newer. Do I have the experience? I mean, I would feel challenged. I would feel that I haven't even got my feet wet yet, and you're handing me somebody through an academy style, that is even going to be, the experience level. So I feel, how am I to feel adequate about that? How am I to prepare for something like that, especially as the employer? It's different if you're just hiring random people, but these folks are coming in and they're already XYZ EMS employees. They're wearing our brand. They're with the team, and here I am with them. And I think this is just a new horizon for us.
So John, I'm gonna ask the question, and I'll ask you guys as well. Remember when we got into EMS and we wanted to be paramedics, and you were going to ride with the seasoned employee and you're the seasoned paramedic and you were going to get the education? What is a seasoned employee now? Because, if the shelf life is only 5 years, then, that's average. So say average 5 years. You've got some that's been in EMS 20 years, some that's been in EMS less than 5 years. But, all the community colleges used to have the rule of has to be 2 years of experience. And can you even find a paramedic sometimes that'll take a student with 2 years or more of experience?
Made up rules.
It's made up. There are made up rules. Made up rules. And but there's still some EMS agencies that say, I'm not going to let a new paramedic ride with them as because they're not trained enough themselves yet. So how are they supposed to train a new paramedic? You know what? It's all this game at this point in time to try to fill the need and move the need. And that's even in nursing. Nursing is the same way. So don't just say it's just EMS. I know we're not in a nursing podcast, but nursing and physician are the same way. Healthcare in general is that way. It's just you know what you do what you know that you think is right and try to keep moving forward, which may not always be the right thing. It's trial by error. But anyway,
I think eventually someone is going to stay longer than 5 years. And maybe that's the thing. Are we searching for, are people out there searching for reasons to stay versus looking for reasons to leave the industry in general? I know they were looking at things like, non-traditional practice, being in a dentist office, being in a hospital ER or something like that. But we really have to find a way to fall in love with EMS again. And I actually personally feel that I really like the fact that agencies are starting to do these academy styles, hiring people straight from nothing to teach them EMT, using community college as the partner. It just brings everybody together. And then, when they graduate from this program, they're going to have a job. They have a job right now. Then they're credentialed and they got a job. Maybe they feel a little bit of loyalty to that. I heard Jim Albright say one time that, when they put them through that program, they're dependent on the loyalty they're going to have to Guilford County EMS to stay there. They're not going to do contracts. They're looking for the loyalty and they'll get it. And, you want the employee to, select you just like you selected them. And then you're going to get a product at the end. The community college has a product at the end. They're going to need to get continuing education. So they're vested in it all along to get to that point. So now it's taking that thing where before we were taking, and we still do take as a community college, folks in from high school, raise them up to be an EMS. Now it's looking at, these folks, they already have a job. They're already coming in employed. They're a part of our EMS system and team and whatnot. And now the community college has to shift a little bit to that whole, I don't have to place you, but I still want you to find quality in what we serve. And that might be a different challenge, along the way. So I know I look at it from, how can I make you fall in love with EMS versus fall out of love with EMS? I don't know if y'all have any strategies for how that looks to you guys, but that's the thing I struggle with, or as I see as a struggle.
Well, our FTOs of the agency has to change the perspective that we've had traditionally, right? We've always had this perspective of, well, you don't know what you need to know. You're not taking care of patients today. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. If we need to stop eating our own, we need to meet our students where they are. That's one thing we talk about all the time in talking about the FTO course and the officer course. We need to meet our students. We need to meet our employees where they are. We need to, wherever we need to communicate with them, whatever we need to do to get them where they need to be as an employee, where they need to be as a student, wherever it is we would want them to be as a professional. We care about our profession. We want them to exceed what we do. We need to do whatever we can to help them meet that goal.
I think that's what the academy does, is the academy takes the strengths of the community college and giving that initial education, and then having that agency work together where we talk about there's that gap. Well, from the get-go, the agency is bridging that gap. And it's about serving our employees. It is about that.
You do a lot with your hands for this to be a podcast, Terry.
It's a big gap.
That's why I like the YouTube version better.
You do a lot with your hands.
So, I think Mark brought in a good thing. Agencies, the community college can't do it by themselves. So we can't do it by ourselves. The agencies have got to get involved with the schools and with the things like that. So I just pulled up a study while we're looking, and currently the average age of a paramedic is 36 years old. This was done in 2001.
It's right there at me.
And yeah, and
Okay.
hold on, let me help you
Whatever.
out. So
Recent.
35%, 30-ish 5% of paramedics in the workforce in 21 were greater than 40 years old. We all have to figure out how to replace me, John, and Terry because Mark can't do it all by himself.
John, Terry, and I.
And I think that's for
Okay.
that's we
Mr.
need to
Grammar,
point.
I'll put myself at the end.
Not everybody that works for a community college knows grammar very well.
Oh,
Not everyone.
so I think we need to call out everybody that is listening to this episode right now that is 25 years old and is getting to that 30 to 35 year, age, and they've been in this career. We need to be prepared. Are we doing everything that we need to be, everything that we need to do to be prepared to lead this next generation that's coming into EMS? I think that's something that we really need to reflect on.
Because y'all are the new, whether we believe it or not. Y'all are the new coming up, and look at even the EMS director positions that are coming up and coming open because those people are retiring. Y'all are the next generation,
or walking out.
True.